recording. And again, just to assure you, it's only going to record me, the speaker, or the screen that I'm sharing. So I want to thank all of you for coming in tonight and being part of this. And for those of you who are not able to make it, I'm glad we're able to record it and have opportunity to watch it after. I was actually joking with Janet, who just popped on and popped off. I've been doing, I've had the opportunity to do presentations and virtual meetings for multiple school districts, and the most viewed video I've ever done is the Florida virtual video from the beginning of the year. It was about 1,400 views. So people do watch after the fact, so I'm glad I do have an opportunity to record it. So the way this is going to go is I took all of your questions from the survey, and I'm going to try to address all of them in some fashion. If I don't address it, it's not because I'm ignoring it. I thought I would have weaved it into something that I went over before, but at the same point at the end, we'll have an opportunity to take open questions. I am going to run through a presentation because I think having an open kind of town hall meeting sometimes doesn't get you the answers that you need. So I am going to take the first portion of this, our time together, and go through a presentation to share with you some of the information to get that out in the front and to share the direction that we're going and allow you to see some of the steps that we're taking. So as people continue to jump on, what you're going to see now, I'm going to share my screen, and in probably the left half of your screen, you're going to see the presentation that I'm going to share with you. Now, I can't see you going forward, so I know Miss Kenny's here. I see Miss Johnson. If something comes into the chat, feel free to just let me know, and I will jump back onto that. So if we're going, this isn't like I'm going to give a 20-minute presentation at the end, answer questions. If you have a question about something I'm talking about, ask at that time. I would rather talk about it in real time than ask 25 minutes after we talk about something and have to go back. I want to address your questions and your concerns in real time when we're talking about that specific piece. I also want to share with you that I'm going to be incredibly transparent and honest tonight. And in some of the things that we talk about tonight, sorry, I'm just letting people in. I want to make sure you have the information as far as how we agree or disagree on that. That's something that we can discuss, but I want to make sure to get you that information so that there's nothing left to we don't know where we're going with this. So I'm going to, at this point, share my screen. So you're going to see a change, and that's okay. And what will be recorded now, again, will be just the presentation that I have. All right, so just if somebody could unmute and make sure that you can see this, it says FLVS family meeting.
Yes, we can see it.
All right, I'm just going to make it a little bit larger. So I want to thank you for coming tonight. We're going to have about 45, 50 minutes to go through and talk about this, and I want to address some of the things that you have shared with me on email and some of the concerns that you had shared and some of the steps that we're taking. I know in the last school committee meeting we talked a little bit about a plan, but tonight I really want to dive into what that looks like in real time. Also, if you have your cameras on, which is fine, if you could just mute yourself so that we can, we're not competing for airtime here. If you do have a question, though, just jump in and we'll let you jump in and ask that. So the one thing that's going to be tricky is I do have to keep jumping back and forth to let people in, which is fine. So if I do pause, that's what I'm doing. Hey, Chelsea, thanks for joining us. All right. So one of the things that I want to kind of back up to go forward, because it does seem to be one of the discussions that we have a lot, is about the difference between teaching and facilitating. We have Leicester Public School teachers, but their role in the Florida Virtual School is facilitating learning. This was just a screenshot from the presentation I did early in September, talking about their role and talking about what we need to do to accomplish what the DESE has asked us to do for a virtual program. So it is an asynchronous program, which means the students are learning at their own pace and through their own means. We have facilitators to help that. We quickly recognized, and from your input as well, that the amount of facilitators and live help sessions was not ample, was not enough. And through that, we created a plan to increase that support time. But what we are not increasing, I just wanted to address this right at the top before we get into this, is having live synchronous classes, like first period math, second period, and teach a full lesson. And I'm going to dive into each school or each grade level area and each support piece so that you see what it looks like and you can see the support time that you're going to have. But I really wanted to talk about this because I think this is something that sometimes gets missed in discussions or gets glossed over. I just wanted to be upfront with you right from the beginning. The asynchronous Florida virtual program is an asynchronous program that our teachers are facilitating the student completion of the program and completion of the online work. And again, just to remind those folks that just came in, if you have a question or you want something clarified, I can't see the chat. So if you just put that in there, I have a question, one of our facilitators or school leaders will just let me know and I'll jump back over. And if I hear the doorbell, I'll jump back over to let people in. So we understood, we heard it, we listened to the facilitators, we recognized that what we initially launched was not going to get the full support of what we needed, especially for our youngest learners, our K-4 and even K-6, where we needed additional support for the live instruction, where our high school learners needed extra support with the content pieces and different levels of assignments and different things. So each level actually had different needs. And the plan that I'm going to go forward with you now is to show you how we address that. And just again, as I go through this, if you have questions or comments or things, please jump in. This is the time to ask. This is the time that I want to share and talk with you to make sure that we're all on the same page moving forward. So we did add 4 faculty, 4 staff, 4 facilitators. It looks like here, the way we're going to do it is we're going to have 3 facilitators now at the elementary and the middle. So we're adding a facilitator at each. In the high school, we're adding a facilitator. And the way we're going to do this is break this down looking at a content facilitator, which is your current facilitator. So they will still stay as the student support, stay as the student connection, stay looking at progress, but we're adding educational facilitators, which will be doing some live support, which will be doing some recorded lessons, which will be, all right, I gotta jump back over, that will be doing some recorded lessons. We'll be looking for resources, the things that we actually were told were going to be there and they weren't. And once we found out they weren't available, we wanted to make sure to have that. So our educational facilitators will have some online time, some online mini lessons, some online creating videos of themselves and finding some online, because that was something I heard from families is we don't know where to find some of this. So the 2 facilitators that we are going to add are going to be able to do this. It'll also free up time for our current facilitators to have more time with the students, more support time, and more time going into content-specific support. So those were 3 of the facilitators that we added. We also added a special education facilitator, and I'm going to share that at the end. So how this will look, and again, because it's an asynchronous program, there is not a single day that's going to look the same for every single student. We have almost 300 students in the program, so having a synchronous program was not the intent of this. However, what we can do is create a pacing of here is a typical week. Here is what our facilitators are going to do. I also wanted to be incredibly transparent on what our facilitators are doing. So the facilitators for elementary school will be still holding the morning meetings. We'll be reviewing the logs. They'll still be meeting individually with each student and then having an opportunity to have office hours in the afternoon, which we didn't have an opportunity to have before. Now, the additional facilitators will also be giving mini lessons or online support. So there'll be time, and again, this is draft form, but I wanted to give you a kind of inside look at what the elementary will be able to do. So all 3 facilitators are going to have time to be online. We'll have time to work with students. And again, the way we're going to do this is have a typical pacing chart. And I know some people may be behind and some people may be ahead. But if we do a traditional pacing chart and have that, that'll give families an opportunity to say, if we stay on this path, we're going to have support each day in some capacity. All of these mini lessons also will be recorded. And the reason for that is, say it's, just for the sake of discussion, lesson 3.1, and your student is on lesson 2.9, and attending that help session is not where they are in the pace. However, if we record that and then we post it on our Florida virtual platform, when they do get to it, they may not have the live support, but they can go back and watch it. So these are things that we definitely want to add for our younger learners to ensure that they had that mix of real-time support, real-time lessons, and additional individual time with each of the facilitators.
I just
So
have a
these,
quick question.
yes.
Does that keep in mind of the children who are special needs that have classes during these times too? Because these mini lessons, like for mine, they're third grade and kindergarten. Some of them look like they might conflict with their special education classes.
So the excellent question, and hence the draft. Miss Smith has been out; she hasn't been feeling well, and we haven't had a full time to coordinate the exact schedule yet. But I also didn't want to come on this evening and say we're still working on it like we did at the last school committee meeting. So this is what it'll look like to show that it's going to be some time every day, but it may not be these exact times. So please note that. That's why I want to make sure it was a draft, that we are going to try to coordinate with our special education faculty, with Miss Smith when I have an opportunity to sit down and review it with her, and with our new special education facilitator. So that's a great point, and one that was hard to navigate without knowing the exact schedules, but I definitely wanted to show you what it was going to look like throughout the full day. So each of the, and I'm going to get to the middle next. So elementary folks, we have questions, feel free to keep jumping in. Once this is solidified and moved from draft to the schedule, you're going to be emailed something with both the content facilitator schedule of what they're doing when they're having their meetings, when they're meeting with students, when they're reviewing individual work, when they're reviewing some of the lessons, and the educational facilitator when they're having that online help. So you'll get a very concrete schedule once that's tightened up. We're in the process now of interviewing and hiring the new facilitators, and we want to make sure that they have an opportunity to jump in as well.
Hi, just a quick question.
Yes.
So I see that they're like 45-minute time slots. Is that enough to do more than one lesson? Because with the pacing guidelines that we have, we're doing more than one assignment per day. But if there's only one 45-minute time slot per day, is that enough time?
I don't want to say yes or no, and I know that's a little bit of a cop-out, but what we want to do is ensure that it's time. They won't be teaching the full lesson. What they're going to be doing is giving some support for the lessons for that day, and really kind of answering some of the initial questions, almost like lesson openers for all of them. And I know that won't be teaching the full lesson, but part of this program is that the facilitators are supporting learning versus teaching the lesson. So I don't know if it's enough time, and probably folks listening at home probably are saying it's not enough time. But the plan that we have right now in place is this will be what we're going to launch moving forward, and then reassess again if it's enough time or not enough time. Or again, another piece that we might do is we don't know if it's going to need equal time for each. This again is just kind of drafted out of how it could look. If one group needs longer, one group needs shorter, like we can play around with this other schedule. And this is just a general schedule. We could look at each day also. I didn't frame it out for the 5 days because it'll be that for the 5 days.
I just have a quick question.
Sure.
For the 45 minutes, is that something that each student will need to schedule questions, or would it be like a direct face-to-face live meeting cohort? I was just a little confused.
Most of them will be live face-to-face, and what they'll do is they'll have the learning lessons for that week and say, this week we're going to go through these 7, 8 topics, whatever it is. And at this time, we're going to talk about two-digit addition. At this time, we're going to talk about vivid verbs. At this time, we're going to talk about some of the science things that you do this week. So to give more content support and help students with the actual lessons that they're going to be working on for that week in their, what would be the traditional pacing piece.
Thank you. Okay.
You're welcome. Okay. And if you think of a question later, I'm not going to say, sorry, elementary, your time is up. So we're going to move on to middle school, because again, this is your time. I want to make sure you are heard, you get the questions answered, and you have the information moving forward. So the middle school is going to be a little bit different. The biggest shift in the middle school, so the elementary school shift is we're going to still have the content facilitators with their current caseload and add an educational facilitator to do some online mini lesson support. The middle school is actually is a larger shift. The way we're going to shift the middle school is instead of having Mr. DePace having the 5th and 6th and Ms. Grove having 7 and 8, they're going to have all the students. However, they're still only going to have half the subjects. So because each of the students have 6 courses, each of them are going to take 3 more aligned with what they're typically teaching or have taught. So Mr. DePace is actually going to do all of 5th through 8th, but really focus on the math, science, and coding classes. So he'll be able to do those, again, mini lessons, discussions focused around content of those lessons. And again, Ms. Grove, I'm not rushing through, just showing you the difference. She's going to be focused on ELA, history, and art. So the way we broke up the middle school is by content, not by grade band, which will allow much more targeted support within their certification and their scope of education and learning and the teaching in the past. So the middle school will be broken again, and this is just a draft. We don't have this exactly right, but at the same point as I was building this, I wanted to make sure to show you an expanded view of how this will look like. These will be scheduled times, and these will be per subject, per grade level, so that you can plan. Now, one of the questions I did receive was, do the students have to do this? You don't have to do anything besides take the attendance in the morning. If you don't need support for a certain week, you don't have to join any of these. If you want to join everyone, you have the opportunity to join everyone. We're trying to make it a little bit more a la carte for you. And we understood that there wasn't enough support. We understand probably some of you watching now saying it's still not enough. I get that. But the next step we took was adding these 4 facilitators and having that flexibility. This allowed us to have some flexibility of how we're working this. So instead of having 2 grade bands, we're going to have our middle school do all the students, but 3 subjects each. So this is going to be a shift coming very shortly, where if you were a 8th grader and had Miss Grove, you're actually going to have both the facilitators, and they're going to be subject specific. So I heard a ding for a chat, so I'm going to jump back over. The attendance will not change because we're going to try to work it a different way. So for instance, if the 5th and 6th grade we're doing from 8 to 8:45 or 8 to 9, or again, if the 5th grade is doing attendance between 8 and 8:45, they're not going to do attendance till after that. And again, we're going to break this down and be much more specific. We're going to ensure that attendance does not impact students learning and having the opportunity to connect with the 2 facilitators. Now, in addition to the 2 facilitators, we added an educational facilitator that will be doing very similar to the middle school, to the elementary school. They'll be doing some live support. They'll be doing some lessons that are posted online. And just going to go back to here to show you what that one looks like. They're going to be, so the middle school one, and we don't have a specific schedule yet because we're hiring that position, but they're going to be putting these support materials. So they're going to take all 6 subjects and add these additional supports for the students. So the 2 current facilitators will be doing the online lessons and mini lessons, and then the facilitator will be adding support and adding videos and recording mini support lessons for our middle school. Now, high school is, again, a little bit different, but we're following the same model, that we are breaking it up by subject, that 2 of the facilitators are going to take half the school. And we're in the process of hiring one. Ms. Kenny, if you're on here, if you know the breakdown, I'd love, feel free to jump in and share that. But each of the facilitators, similar to the middle school, are going to take half the school.
Yes, there. We have Mr. Alfonso. He's going to be doing the social studies in English, and then the additional facilitator will be doing the science and math.
Excellent. So the middle and high school are broken down, are more subject specific, with the middle school adding an additional support. And the reason there's only 2 at the high school was when we met with all the facilitators, the bigger need for the high school is actually breaking it up this way than adding a secondary staff member or a 3rd staff member like the other schools did. Okay, so the other position that we added was a special education facilitator solely for this program, because we had some of our facilitators trying to support. We had some of our in-person special education teachers trying to support, but now we're going to have a special education teacher that's certified K-12 in moderate special needs to support our students. And the way this will work is almost running like mini staff meetings. Now that we have almost 10 facilitators that they can meet with their team, meet with the teachers, the facilitators, and the in-school special education teachers to get students the support they need and get them the support they need within their lessons. So if a fourth grader needs support on their mini lesson time, the special education teacher will also be in that mini lesson to support them. So this educator will be the facilitator for all of our special education students. This does not take the place of their in-school scheduled service like speech, OT, PT, or other specialized services. This would be an educational enhancement for our students to ensure that they have support. This person will also be able to do one-on-one support, if more by appointment, because it's not going to be a specific schedule. They're going to have the opportunity to schedule with some of the students in their caseload. So I'm just going to jump back. So let's say our second grade facilitator was doing a live mini lesson in math at 11:15 to 12. Well, at 1 o'clock, the special education teacher could work with some of those students to say, all right, let me give you some support in the subject area or the specific skill that you're working on. The special education teacher will have access to all of the students on their caseload in all of their classes. So before I go on to the questions from the survey, I wanted to see if there were questions about the scheduling or some of the additions that we had or anything about the specifics of the day.
Hi, Matt. I have a question. It's Tammy.
And I'm just going to unshare for now, and if I have to, I'll jump back, just so I'm not looking at you. Hey, Tina. Oh, who is it? Tammy. Sorry, I wasn't on the screen. Hi, Tammy.
So the mini lessons, I'm just curious if they will follow the specific content in Florida Virtual School. You know, I know there's a lot about nouns and verbs and things like that, but will there be a connection with the material that's directly in there, or just a wider concept?
No, it'll be directly related to, so they'll take the lesson that's, I don't want to just make up something, but let's say it's fractions that the students will be working on in the traditional week of math. They'll do a mini lesson on fractions, and then in this case, if it's this fourth grader using this hypothetical, then Barbara in their individual meeting, or Miss Knight in their individual meetings, could then dive deep into the actual assignment that they're working on. So we're trying to have not only some content support that, you know, completing some online live mini lessons on the actual work that they're doing, then the content facilitators, Miss Knight and Miss LeBlanc, can meet with them one-on-one to give further support on their actual assignment that they have to complete, part of the virtual school, not just a general Khan Academy. We're going to just talk about a specific topic today.
So for the special education extra person that's going to help, do we have to reach out to them to get that help, or are they going to come to us if it's on our child's IEP for extra help in the classroom?
Both, because if they have specific grid support, we're going to work with Ms. Smith to make sure that they have that support. And then if you need support because the students aren't understanding, you would then reach out to that student, to the facilitator to receive some additional support.
So will that person's information be shared to everyone so they have that person to reach out to, or do we have to call the school or send an email to someone to request their information?
We will definitely send it out once the person is hired. We'll actually send out the next. One of the things I want to promise you is if you don't have something, please let me know and we'll try to get it to you. It's not that we know who the person is and haven't sent it out. As soon as we get the person's name and contact information, we're going to send it out. We're in the process of hiring it. We interviewed the high school person. We're just waiting for them to sign to start. And we've interviewed middle, and then we're moving on to elementary and special ed. So as soon as these folks are hired, we're going to send it all out with who our teams are at each of the levels, the contact information. As far as special education, Ms. Smith will also be part of that, sending that out. Other questions or thoughts or things before I move on to the questions from the survey? Hi, Chad.
I do have a quick question. Hi, I'm Jane. I'm
All right.
Chad.
I'm like, that's not Chad, but
So yeah, I was just wondering about the printing. We've seen it takes a long time to organize.
100%.
Yeah. So I didn't know if
That's
there's any way we can talk about that really quick.
that is the number one, or on the first slide of when I get into the questions from the survey. So I'm definitely going to talk about that. Somebody put something in the chat. So this must be either a high school student or high school family. So we purchased the AP and the Study Forge for all of the high school students who needed it for their courses. I personally went in and set it up, got the cart, and we got the purchase order for it. As soon as we get the codes, our high school students will have access to all of that. So that is in process. And yes, it stinks we don't have it right now. I get that, and I apologize for that. But as soon as I heard we needed some of that, I went right into it's almost like an Amazon cart, went into the FLVS cart, put all of that in, got the purchase order, and it is ordered in. If we don't get the codes by tomorrow, I'm going to again send Nikki, who is our contact, a note like, hey, it's been 3 days.
I had a question. I'm sorry.
Don't be, why are you sorry? This is why we're doing it.
For the special education facilitator, it seems like they're going to be K through 12. Am I correct with that?
That is correct.
That seems it. Are they going to have enough time to meet with these? Because I'm sure there's a very large caseload of families who are remote with special needs. Are they going to have enough time to meet with all these families?
Hold on, people still jumping in. From looking at the current caseload and breaking it down and meeting with Ms. Smith, they will have time, but that's in the planning phase. If it doesn't work out that in real time we do, we're going to have to adjust again.
Hi, it's Lisa Cole.
Hi, Lisa.
Hi, just a quick question, and you may get into it further in your presentation. I had a question regarding there's a elementary math notification that was sent out by Mrs. Boss regarding ST math. It's like an extracurricular
Yep.
math. Yeah, so it wasn't clear to me if that was for all students, including cohort D, or if it's more for, the kids who are doing hybrid to fill up their asynchronous day.
Well, it's a little bit of both. So last year, I participated and wrote a grant to get the ST Math program to come to the elementary school. It's a fabulous research-based program that incorporates a lot of inquiry-based discovery learning. Once we went to, this was before COVID even hit, and then as we moved forward and went into what we're currently using for a hybrid model, and hearing a lot of the concern that our cohort D families didn't have some of the same things as the in-person. Just to be honest with you, it was something I wanted to ensure that they had access to. Now, in the in-person day, it's part of their weekly expectations that our kindergarten and first graders complete 60 minutes of ST Math, and our second, third, and fourth graders complete 90 minutes. Part of the FLVS program, that's not part of the requirements, but it's something that you can use to enhance what you're doing. It's something you have access to. It's something students can do. We also know that they have specific curriculum they need to get through. So if it's too much, because I'm hearing, some families are saying it's too much, but they actually have already, we didn't want to set the same expectations for completion, because the in-person model, they actually reduce some of the work to allow students to complete it. But all of our elementary students have access to ST Math and can be using it as much as or as little as you would like.
Okay, and secondly, this pertains to the grading and what metrics are going to be used at the elementary level. Example, I have a third grader. We're keeping up with our pacing charts. We see the progress bar and the score that's associated with each subject. And it's not clear, is that going to be their official grade, or other things going to be taken into consideration? For example, we have the option to keep taking a quiz to try to get, a better score. Should I be pushing my child, to try to achieve the highest score possible? Or do we look at, she did 80%, is that good enough? Because other things are going to be taken into account.
Well, one thing I learned early on as an elementary school principal, I would never tell you how to parent and what's good enough for you. But if they completed an 80% and you feel that they're ready to move on, then that's okay to do it. The elementary report card is actually a standards-based report card, so it won't be a one-to-one correlation. So our facilitators will be working with Ms. Boss and myself, and to have that correlation to ensure that the standards-based reporting is measuring where they are in their progression.
Matt, I'm going to jump in quick. So
Please,
third
sure.
and fourth grade is not like more of a ABC kind of report card. Not,
Yep.
I think K1-2 is the standard based.
Right.
So
And that'll align. So what we did, I'd have to scroll back up and see who asked it. I think it was Lisa. What we're going to do is see, we have dates, and if we haven't sent those out yet, we'll make sure to get those out to you when because each school does either quarters, semesters, trimesters. Whenever the closing date is, you'll know before that, and you'll have an opportunity, just like they would as an in-person, to have time to make up some work. And as you said, retake part of the Florida virtual programs. We allow students to take it as many times because it's about learning the skill, not necessarily taking a one-time test.
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, I'm going to dive into, and again, keep asking away. I'm going to dive into some of the questions that you asked. That was just the first half was about the scheduling, and try to work in a lot of the questions that were in the survey into that. So I'm going to reshare. You're going to see again the presentation pop up on the left side of your screen. I can't see you, so if you have a question, please jump in. So number one, how can you complete work if you don't, and the red is just your questions that you pulled. So I met today with Dr. Tenza, and what we're going to do is create a process. It won't be tomorrow, just to be honest with you. If I had to be honest with you, probably starting November 1st, is create a process where we print out all the printables for the elementary program and have a pickup spot. It may be central office, because I'll be doing a lot of this work to print it out for you, to make sure you have packets. Doesn't mean you have to come and get it. Doesn't mean you need to do these, but we want to make sure to make this accessible to you. So the two biggest concerns that have been coming to us were about the live teaching in a synchronous learning environment, which this is not the program that does that, but the second one was about the printing, and that is something that I could support and make sure that this gets done. So this is literally, what time is it? 10 hours old from making a plan of making this happen, that we create the printables, and it may be a system of like who would like certain things, and we make them up and families can come pick them up. And again, I don't have a designated area yet for that, but we are going to make sure that you have the printables that you need. Yeah, somebody talked about the printer not working as well. And the compatibility. So taking all of this in, we want to take this off the plate of especially our youngest learners, because a lot of the feedback has been from our K-4 students, the amount that you have to print and the difficulty printing it. So
Can I jump in with a question with the thank you with the printing? Is
yes.
that also a place to drop off once the work is completed, potentially, as the scanning again is like the other end of it, if that's possible?
I don't have a as solid of a plan for that yet, but it is something we can work out, because we have scanners at central office if that is a concern. The scanning didn't, and again, I'm not saying this is accurate. I'm just taking from what was said to me. The scanning was a secondary concern, where the printing out was the larger concern. So I wanted to address the larger concern first, and then work out a plan for families who are having difficulty scanning as well. But if that is an issue, and if that is making it difficult to complete the assignments, we'll make it happen for you. I just don't know how
Thank
at this
you.
point, but
Yeah,
I'll find a way.
that we've completed, and maybe somebody can have an arrangement where they can drop it off to have it graded, or even if we can take photos on our phone and send it in. I don't know if that's, just saying, if that's.
So that's going to come up later, but I want to address it in real time now. You can go onto the FLVS program on your phone, and actually your phone is a scanner. Most of unless you are utilizing an older version of a phone with older software, all the phones are scanners, and you can take a picture and upload it right into the system.
Great. Okay. Thank you.
Again, I don't have the most streamlined answer for this, but the answer is that this is the printing and the scanning are, in my opinion, at the top of family concerns that we can actually address. So I want to make sure to do that. So the second question is about assessment. So the STAR assessment is for our in-person learners at this point because it's an in-person assessment. However, as one of my, I have 3 titles essentially, and one is Director of Assessment. I want to make an opportunity to have all of our students to assess to and make sure that we are continuing to have that growth. So there will be an assessment. At this point, though, the beginning of the year assessment was for in-person learners to see where they are so we can start planning intervention. As we get into the middle of the year assessment, I want to make sure that our cohort D students are aligned with our in-person students as far as where they are compared to the state standards. So there will be an assessment. They won't be taking the beginning of the year assessment because they're just starting their curriculum. And if I'm just going to plow through these, so if you have questions, like I said, please just jump in and ask. So we'll return again. I'm just reading your questions. I'm not trying to be just refreshing my memory. So the students are allowed to return to school. This is a family decision. If you complete the first semester and feel like this is not fitting your needs, then you can re-enroll your student, be like re-enrolling them to the school. They'd come back. Dr. Tenza sent out a email a while back that talked about there would be a gap, and I want to explain that. The gap wouldn't be in the learning pieces. The gap would be on the sequence of learning. So if they return, I'm just picking a random date, and there is a real date. I just don't have it in front of me. If it's January 19th and they return, there'll be some standards that the students in Florida Virtual have already attained, and the in-school students have not yet been taught, and vice versa. Students from the Florida Virtual School could come back and content that they needed to attain in the Florida Virtual School, the in-person students have already been taught because it's a different sequence, because the Florida Virtual program is set up for a 1-year cycle so that they attain all the standards in the pacing that the Florida Virtual School put together, which could be different than the instructional calendars that the Leicester public school teachers have developed. So I don't know anything about the sketchbooks, and I don't know where this, I don't know anything about it. I just want to be honest with you. If there are materials that you need that are critical, I'm not saying like pencils or different things, but if there is specific material for a specific course that you need, please let your facilitator know, and they can connect with me, and we will make sure to make that happen. That there are certain things that have to be done in each of the courses, especially in our upper levels classes. That's where some of the purchasing we did this week was to get materials for them. So if there is something specific for a specific course, please let us know, because there's hundreds of courses. And just to be honest with you, I don't know every single necessary need for every single course because each student is different. But please connect with your facilitators to share if that's something that you need. So some of the test materials to be quite advanced. This is a tricky answer because it's all the curriculums aligned to the Mass State standards, and it is actually accurately paced. If this is more difficult than it was in their classroom or their classroom last year, it's something that I need to discuss and address with our in-person teachers, that we want to make sure we have the rigor and robust curriculum in person that matches the expectation of the state. And the curriculum that is online matches the state expectations in the state curriculum to whatever grade, to ensure the students complete 1 year of work in that period of time they're in school. So it may be difficult, and I'm hoping for students who are finding that difficult, the additional time with facilitators and additional live lessons will help that. So the compatibility issue. So I worked with our director of technology, Mr. Berthume, and he's been working with Florida Virtual to work out any bugs. I don't know any of the specific issues. So the more specific you can be, the better, and not just content can't be uploaded. The more specific you are with class, the more specific you are with assignment, the better it'll be, because when you get into the algorithms and coding, which is how these platforms are built, there could be something that doesn't work in the eighth grade science, but it works in the eighth grade math, English, and language arts. So I have heard there's some issues. I'm not saying that there's no issues, but large issues mean, oh, my Chromebook isn't compatible, is very difficult to pinpoint what the issue is. And it's also, the more specific you are, allows us to know if it's a hardware issue, meaning the actual Chromebook, or if it's a platform issue, which is the Florida virtual platform itself. I meet and get communications every Monday morning from the Florida virtual school, both the Nikki, our support person, and the technical piece to talk about any updates or things like that. So the more specific would be great and helpful. So two pieces, I cannot scan nor email. So the scanning piece I talked about a little bit, and I'm going to try to make it a process. And for those of you who know me, I say process a lot because it's just easier and efficient when we have a process. So there will be one for printing and get you the printables, and then there'll be one, the reverse, where we get it back and scan for you. Because the tricky part with the scanning is I essentially have to be your student and scan it into their work. So I'm learning how to do that because I will have to be each individual person. Not saying I'm not going to do it. I'm saying there's got to be a more efficient way than me log into every single student's account and upload it. However, if that's what we have to do, that's what we got to do. As far as the email, I know this was a concern for our K through fourth graders. I can assure you this was approved, and this is, if it's not on already, please let me know, because this is something that needs to be open for all of you, and was assured it's going to be open. And if it's not, just let me know. The holiday schedules, our facilitators will follow the LPS schedule. If you choose to do work over a break, that's a family decision, but our facilitators will follow the LPS schedule, the calendar, and that's online. So what we're going to try to do is, we did give a pacing guide of kind of a larger look. Now that we're doing some specific weekly support, our facilitators are going to look at smaller chunks, and it won't be day by day. Like day one, you should be on this, day two, it'll be this week. So these are some of the skills that we're going to work on and really try to break it down a little bit more than we have. We understand having that pacing chart will help, and not having it will be difficult to do the live support. So we're going to try to back it up and break down that support. And with that, have those pacing charts on a much smaller scale. All right, so those were the main questions I thought from the survey that I sent out, or from the beginning I thought I tried to hit. But I'm going to unshare my screen and jump back here. And okay, I want to open it up. If there's something I didn't touch on, something that you're still confused about, something you're frustrated about, like, listen, I want to help you and be here and listen for you.
Thank you. I guess I have one more question. I was just wondering, how many students per facilitator or per teacher at this time? I guess that 45 minutes, I'm just concerned if there's 50 or more students all needing to ask a question in that time, like how would that go, I guess?
So it would be per grade level, and I could pull up the actual breakdown, but quick math, and I see Barbara and Caitlin here, you have about 60 students per, if I had to guess, which would be 3 grades for Caitlin, which would be about 20 per. So if every student joined, it would be about 20. Barbara's, Miss Knight, sorry, was about a little bit more because she has 2, so it would be a little bit more than that. So if you had 60, it would be closer to 30 if each of them jumped on. And please jump in if there's other facilitators here. I don't think so. Let me know. Is that about accurate, Ms. LeBlanc and Ms. Knight, about numbers? Okay, so
I have 54.
it'll be
I have
54 divided by 2. So whatever. So quick math, 26, 27, sorry, 27. So about 27 or 20 if every student logged on.
Mine does vary by grade level. There's a little less kindergartners, a little more first graders, and my largest group is second grade, but there's no more than 25 in one group. We might even be down a little bit from there as well.
Okay, so if we maxed out, it would essentially be the same as our in-person educators on a Wednesday.
Thank you.
Again, I'm not trying to rush you off. This is your time. I want to make sure you feel heard, and no, we don't have all the answers, the exact questions you want or needs, but the more we can have communication and hear what the stressors are, the more we can work on it.
Matt, it's Tammy again. Just a question about the timeline. I think I heard you say that some folks have been hired. Will you do a staggered rollout based on when people do get hired?
Absolutely. Like as soon as we get people, they're going to start. So I don't want to wait. Let's say I know the high school person is just waiting to sign their contract. As soon as they start, that process starts. As soon as we hire the middle school person, that person's going to start. We're not waiting for all 4 to be on board to roll this out, because there's some urgency here. And if we haven't hired someone tomorrow, when I go in, I'm going to say, let's get going. So it will be a staggered rollout, only because as soon as we get it, I want to get it started.
Great, thanks.
Dr. Joseph, this is Brianna Asia. How are you?
Hi, Brianna. I'm good, thank you.
Good. I have some questions about so I know you said we'll have some time slots, like saw the kindergarten schedule, trying to go over the weekly content. A lot of my problems come in with the way these assignments are written. I was talking to Miss LeBlanc about an assignment that I encountered that she also encountered, that left a lot of information out, which ended up having my husband fail it. I failed it. My son failed it. It was hard. And it crushed, like he was very confused. And then we were very confused. And those type of things pop up in the program a lot. There's like missing pieces to get to the answer needed, or missing instructions.
So that must be incredibly frustrating. I can imagine. I don't know the specifics, and I'm not trying to give you a pretty weak answer, but one of the things I can say is if there's things that are missing, stop moving forward. Like don't do it. Contact us right away so that we can try to address the problem. I definitely don't want you or your son or daughter to reach that level of frustration, especially if all 3 of you are taking it and it's not working. And you can tell, I think your son, and I said you can just stop until we can move forward, work with Ms. LeBlanc, and we can get it fixed. And that goes for all grade levels, K to 12. If you're reaching that level of frustration, please just stop and regroup and let us know, loop the facilitators in, especially now that we're going to have more time and more facilitators to help. I know that doesn't really answer your question, but more, I want to give you the freedom to know that it's okay to stop if there is that gap or something's missing.
Sure. And I have another question.
Sure.
As well. So we are running into our biggest problem for my first grader with the ELA, which is, as I understand, phonics, grammar. There's like 3 or 4 things that encounter what ELA is. And when we do our ELA, we have 4 to 6 modules that are 16 to 28 pages long. It is very fast paced. The subjects switch like this, and are we getting it done? Yes. Are we lacking in a lot of areas? Yes. And on the days that we really focus to get it done, it really is like an 8-hour day. It's very unproductive, kind of like hostile environment in English.
Okay, so just like I don't want you to reach the level of frustration, I don't want it to become a hostile environment. So I don't know the specifics of what the concerns are. One of the things that we've been working with Ms. LeBlanc, because this is the level that you're talking to, is ensuring that if there are things that don't need to be done, or if there's just the pieces that will show that the student knows it, we're going to have them just do that. And we're trying to balance the pacing and workload with the current expectation. So if there's something that is reaching that level of frustration to hostile, please reach out to her so that we can adjust our pacing of it, because we're following the program of what they're telling us is a typical first grade day. And if that's not the case, let us know.
Yeah, and again, the issue that I'm seeing is, and I just want to make sure I'm clear on it, is it's the number of modules, but it's the number of assignments and pages involved in those modules.
Yes,
So
and
that's
within,
kind of what I'm getting at.
yep, and within those, we have the flexibility to limit what is getting done or not done, and what you'll see or not see.
Wonderful, wonderful. Thanks for having that flexibility.
And I think
Yeah,
Deanna jumped in with a hi.
Yeah, hi.
One of the
So
benefits
I
of
was
the little words at
that
the
you can
bottom.
see. Yeah. I was just gonna jump in on what Brianna was just saying, that the ELA is really challenging for both my first grader and my third grader. It's like the horrible word that we say, what are we doing today? It's ELA, and they're like, no. So if they're looking at mini lessons for those grades, I think a focus on ELA would be really, really helpful for us, at least, because then we would at least have somebody giving us what we need to know for ELA, and then, kind of sending us on our way.
No, this is Deanna. Thank you, and Ms. LeBlanc and I will connect as well as the school. These are critical feedback for us, and I've been receiving a lot of information from families and a lot of frustrations. I get that, but these are solution-based concerns. Like if that's the issue, I want to work. Like, tell us sooner than later. I'm not saying you didn't, but I'm telling you tonight, these are the things that we can create solutions to. If it's that level of frustration and that level of work, we can look to scale that back, not lower the expectations, but scale it back so that it doesn't reach this level of frustration that it becomes the ELA, like, oh, I don't even want to wake up today. I definitely don't want that for any of our learners in person as well. Like, this isn't just for our cohort T students.
Based on that really quick as well, I can confirm the ELA is definitely the biggest challenge for my third grader. It does seem like they're over 10 pages. And then I was just confused because some of them seem to be learning activities, and then some seem to be assignments, but it's really not ordered well, or like if you print out a bunch and they get scattered, you're not sure which one you're supposed to do first, and that. So it's just the ELA absolutely could be maybe a little more streamlined for that.
Okay, thank you. Like, and I think having more of these conversations and opportunities to connect are going to be what makes this really workable, because I can promise you we're in this to find solutions for you. And I know we've heard some things about feeling left out or an afterthought, and I don't want you ever to feel that way. And I want to make sure that these concerns are ones that we can find solutions to. So a couple of things I saw in the chat. Oh, did someone have
I did. So my two boys, so I work full time at the hospital, and my two boys are with an older daycare provider who's not very tech savvy. So this is a huge, thing for her she's trying to learn all this. I'm trying to help her. Her daughter's trying to help her do what we can. So it's easy for them to be able to get online as easy as possible without her having to do too much, because otherwise she doesn't really understand it. So the printing of the assignments is huge. I had an issue where if I would go in, I was trying to go in before, print out the assignments so they were ready the day before. It was giving my kids credit for doing the assignments or have done some of the work because I skipped forward. And then they thought that they had already done it, so they skipped to the next thing when they actually hadn't done it.
okay.
So I'm not sure why it's giving credit when I'm just trying to print the documents out, why
Gotcha.
it's giving them credit for doing
Ms.
the
LeBlanc,
work.
I see your hand up.
Yeah, if you'd like me to jump in here. So I did verify this with Nikki, our support person at the FLVS program, and she did say that those check marks there are really not a way to kind of keep track of the work that students have and have not done. Those check marks will be there simply if the material is viewed. And I know that I've been having this conversation with a lot of our elementary parents because you want to go in and you want to preview the work. However, even if a parent is previewing the work, you could click, 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 click super fast through all of those slides, and it's still going to give you the check mark there. So something that I've been recommending is to have sort of a checklist for your student. You could use our pacing guides, and they could cross off when they've done a lesson. Having kind of another system of checks and balances to know what lessons students have actually completed, because those check marks don't mean anything like as far as time spent or anything except for that those pages were clicked on. So that's kind of where that lands as far as the learning platform.
I could see where that's tricky.
I was just wondering if I could say something regarding viewing the lessons and printing stuff out. So if you go under that introduction folder at the beginning before module 1, you click on it and 2 things will pop up, and one of them will say lessons. And as a parent, if you click on the lessons folder, it will have the same sort of interface on the screen as the child, but it doesn't give your child a check mark or credit for viewing that. It's you only go in there to look and see what the lesson is, and you can print out the stuff.
Awesome. Well, thank you. There were a couple in the chat before we wrap up. Was about if students are not doing well, would they stay back? Well, one of the things is adding the support will provide that additional support for students to ensure that if they need that support, that they're getting the content help that they need, so that the goal is not to keep students back if they are able to complete the work. I don't know the specific for your specific learner, but that's where our facilitators are going to come in to help if they're at that level of concern that they're worried about not passing. So, Ms. LeBlanc or Ms. Knight, can families view students' work after it's graded?
Yeah, so there are 2 ways that you're able to go ahead and look at your students' work and any feedback that were given, and whether or not your facilitator has given your student a chance to retry the activity. One way is to click on the little like bars, it's the gradebook icon on the course card for each of the different courses that you're taking. When you do that, you'll view just the course lessons and activities for just that one subject, like math, for example. The alternative is to look at the activity stream, and that area is kind of like a stream like you would see kind of, you know, your feed on any sort of live stream type thing. And that will show you every activity that you've done within the most recent few days. So it would say like you did science today, you did your social studies yesterday, you did your math yesterday too. And then it will show the grades as well as a little speech bubble if your facilitator has typed something to you, or a little arrow back if you can retry, and then the grade as well. So those are kind of 2 options for that.
And just so that families know, as we wrap up, tomorrow our elementary team is going to do a walkthrough of Buzz at 3:15. So some of these are great pieces of feedback to put in. If you have some specific questions, feel free to reach out to your facilitator just to say, could you touch on this tomorrow? And are we going to record that so that we can bring that? So we're going to record that session as well, and then we're going to send that out. I don't think families have a separate account. It's not like Power School. There's just one singular account.
Dr. Joseph, this is Brianna again.
Yep.
I just wanted to follow up on the submitting issue. I know you said that there's going to be, we're going to make a way. I am definitely one of those parents that needs a way, because I have 40 to 60 pages of printouts and work that my son has done that is yet to be submitted. And that's a lot of logging in and going back and doing all of those things. So I'm definitely in need of one of those alternate solutions to get the back work in. And then I can start now knowing the solution moving forward with potentially trying to use my smartphone moving forward.
Okay. So again, I'm just making this up on the fly, but one of the ways we would do that is probably scan, like I'm thinking of this as I'm working and talking with all of you, since it would be difficult for me to go into every single account. I could actually scan it to your son's email account, and this is why having the email accounts is critical, because our scanner will be able to do that. So I don't have the exact way, but I will find a way to make it happen. One of the things that we're going to do as we wrap up, and thank you so much for coming, and thank you for your honest and open questions, is I'm going to keep the survey, and we'll say questionnaire, open. And when I send out this recording to everybody, I'm going to just restate that if you have questions, I want to start to create a question answer bank so that we have this open communication, and maybe have some time once a month that we do meet, we do connect. Because hearing about the ELA, that's not to say it's new news, not that you haven't been sharing it to that level, but to hear that it's to the level of that frustration, we want to make sure to discuss that. So thank you, all of you, for spending an hour tonight with us. We're going to send this out and continue to send us some of the suggestions that you have, and we're going to continue to create schedules to make it the best fit for our remote learners.
Mr. Joseph, can I just make a quick announcement?
Oh, sorry, high school has an announcement.
Okay. This is Tracy Kenny, the principal at the high school. Last week, we had an opportunity for any of the cohort D students at the high school to have their pictures taken, and we will be doing that again this Friday. If any of your students did not have a chance, and again, I'm talking to the high school families, to have their pictures taken this Friday between 9 and 9:15 around back by the track. You just can pull in, your child can have their picture taken quickly and then get right back in the car. We would love to see you.
Awesome. Sorry about that. I know you told me before. that was a miss by me. So I hope everyone has a wonderful night. Like I said, we'll keep this conversation going. And thank you for coming. And for our elementary folks, feel free to tune in tomorrow at 3:15 for the walkthrough of Buzz. Have a great night, everybody.
Thank you, Matt.
You're welcome.